Welcome to Let's Talk Near Death, the podcast show that talks about life, death, and experiences somewhere in between. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, the host of the show, and I hope you'll join me as I chat to everyday people with not so everyday experiences. You may also wish to join the conversation over in the Let's Talk Near Death online community, which is found at www.letstalkneardeath.com. Membership is free, or you're welcome to upgrade to join the live VIP events, to gain early access to episodes, or to receive extra VIP bonus material. Your support helps me to continue to get episodes out and to help grow the conversation around these types of experiences. But before then, let's talk near death.
I was in a room that looked like a hospital room, but I wasn't really sure. I can tell you what color the walls were, what the walls were made of, where the furniture was in the room, where the baby crib was in the room, where the windows were. And I had no knowledge of where this room was or why I would remember such a thing. And I am standing where I'm being held in an oval room, solid white. It has 7 pillars in the middle and an elevated floor in the middle.
Hello, and welcome back to the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Today I'm chatting with Alan Cofield, who has a very interesting story. He had a near-death experience when he was just a couple of days old, and I know you might be wondering, how is that possible? How does he remember that experience? It's not as uncommon as you would think. I hear of all sorts of stories about people having experiences very, very early on in their lifetime. So this was an experience which has all sort of come together in the last couple of years, and it's a very interesting story. I hope that you'll enjoy hearing it and learning about how Alan has put together the pieces of the puzzle, how he's come to accept and understand all of the things that have stuck with him since the experience that he couldn't explain. So let's get into today's episode. Alan Cofield, it is fabulous to have you here. Welcome to the Let's Talk Near Death podcast.
Thank you.
So Alan, take us back. How did this all take place? What was the circumstances around your NDE, your near-death experience?
Well, actually, it was the day after I was born. I was born August 1st, 1964, at the Salvation Army Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. And I need to kind of give you a little bit of background leading up to this to kind of put some things in perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, here I am at 50 some odd years old now, and everybody's going, wait a minute, how do you know you had a near-death experience when you were 1 and 2 days old? Mm-hmm. Well, I was put up for adoption immediately after I was born. I was adopted 4 months and 17 days later. And going back as far as I can remember in my memory or my existence, I always had certain memories of things that had no explanation. Some of these memories were like snapshots in my mind of things. Some were like 1-second video clips that never really made any sense. So I lived, I would ask my adoptive parents, what did they know what any of this was about? Did they understand any of the visions or sights or whatever that I had? And they didn't know. And so I just pretty much, put it off on the back burners as long as I could in life. But my adoptive father passed away when I was 15. My adoptive mother passed away when I was 30. I waited a couple of years after that, and I went ahead and decided to go ahead and look up my biological family, mainly because I was curious about my genealogy and find out where I came from and things of that nature. Went through the state of Alabama, who had handled the adoption in the first place. And they put me in touch with the biological mother. We had numerous phone conversations, and then we met, spent an entire day together asking questions and answering questions and, joking and visiting and whatnot. Toward the end of the visit, I asked her about these memories. And there are 2 particular memories that pop up. And I'm going to go into the entire detail of the near-death experience here in a minute. But one particular memory was I was in a room that looked like a hospital room, but I wasn't really sure. I can tell you what color the walls were, what the walls were made of, where the furniture was in the room, where the baby crib was in the room, where the windows were. And that was it. And I had no knowledge of where this room was or why I would remember such a thing. The next memory I had was being held on someone's left shoulder. And it was like I was being cradled on that shoulder as a small infant. And I asked my biological mother about these two. And when I gave her the details of the room, she looked at me kind of strange and said, Alan, you just described what your hospital room was like on the day you were born and the next day to a T.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Well, what about the memory of being held on somebody's left shoulder? And she said, well, we had some problems the day that you were circumcised. And when they brought you back to me, you were not happy. And it didn't matter what position I put you in the room or held you or whatever. There was only one position I could hold you where you would be comfortable and even go off to sleep, and that was on my left shoulder. Okay, at that point, the only thing we know is, for some reason, I have some kind of memory of things that happened when I was 2 days old. We still have not tied into the fact that this is associated with a near-death experience. So from that point forward, for the next 23 years, I would tell people, okay, yeah, I can remember when I was 2 days old, and people would look at me like I was nuts, which that's never been up for debate. But they would ask, and then there were some people that would tell me, Alan, that's physically impossible for a 2-day-old baby to remember anything, much less what the room walls were made of and what color the walls were in the room and things of that nature. But the only thing we could associate with this memory and these memories were, and the verification of these memories were, there was some kind of a freak, something going on in my brain that allowed me to understand this. And I would even go on social media even up to about 2 years ago and would usually attach a joke to it. And I would say, well, yeah, I can remember when I was 2 days old, but I can't tell you where I put my keys 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, that was life. I just figured, okay, that happened. We go on. Now, getting into the NDE itself, as I said earlier, I am a Christian. I am very spiritually sensitive and always have been. And a little less than a year ago, I was spending some time in prayer and meditation with the Lord. And I was talking with him about different things. And one of the things that he brought to my attention and kept putting before what I call my spiritual eyes was the image that I have of that hospital room that I had described to my biological mother, and who told me that was the room I was in right after I was born. And I kept looking at it and thinking, okay, great. Thanks for showing that to me. Now, what else are we going to talk about? But he kept showing it to me. And he finally spoke to me and said, Alan, look at this photo. What is your perspective? And I looked at the photo and I realized all these years that I've been looking at this photo, I'm looking at the room, not from the perspective of where you would typically think a 1 or 2 day old baby would be. I'm looking at this room from the upper back corner near the ceiling, looking down over the room.
Interesting.
And I never had any memories of what it was like in the crib. I don't remember, being carried around the room. That is the only memory I have of that room. Well, over a period of a couple of days, more prayer, more meditation, more seeking to find out answers to this, the entire experience came together, because all these memories, all these little video clips, and all these pictures I had in my brain of different things, now the Lord brought together and made sense. And he brought it together for a reason, which I'll get into here in a little bit. But the entire experience was this. It starts off, I am hovering over the hospital room. I'm there for, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. I don't see anybody, just me looking down. Probably, like I said, 10, 15 seconds, an angel appeared to my right. This angel took me, held me in her arms, and covered me with a cloth. Obviously, I'm covered. I don't know what's going on, but I felt the sensation of speed and a high rate of speed for, 10 seconds maybe. When we stopped, the cloth was removed from me, and I am standing where I'm being held in an oval room, solid white. It has 7 pillars in the middle and an elevated floor in the middle. And in the middle of that floor, and at the time I didn't know this was who this was, there was a person standing there wearing a white robe with a gold chain around his waist. And he looked at the angel and looked at me and said to the angel, "Bring him to me." She took me to the person who I now know that was Jesus Christ. He holds me on his left shoulder, and I can remember playing with his hair and even chewing on his hair from the position that he was holding me in.
Yeah.
That memory kind of fades, and I go to the next one where I'm in a room that's about maybe 10 foot by 10 foot. And it's kind of dark, but if I look to my right, I look down a hallway and I see the room that we just left, room where I met Christ. If I look to my right, I see that. If I look to my left, I see what looks like an old railroad tunnel with an archway over the top. And I'm there for a few moments. I'm comfortable. I'm not nervous. I'm not sure what's going on, but okay. Then to my right, I see 2 angels coming toward me. And both of these angels look to be around the ages of maybe 6 to 8 years old. One of them is a little boy with black hair. One of them is a little girl. The little boy never says much to me. I don't think he said anything to me. But the little girl was totally fascinated with me. Evidently, she and I did some interaction, because every time I would do something, she would giggle and laugh and have fun and enjoy it. But eventually she looks at me and she goes, "Okay, John, it's time to go. We've got to go back to your body." And I'm slowly going toward her, but she keeps, waving me with her arm saying, "Come on, John, we've got to go back to your body. Come on, John, we've got to go back to your body." And I began to follow her and the young boy angel down into this tunnel. And every so many feet, she would stop, turn around, look, giggle, and we'd keep on going. But she's checking on me to make sure I'm actually coming with her. What makes that particular aspect of this near-death experience so fascinating, and when this all fell in place in my understanding, I was speechless for a good half hour, because the angel kept calling me John. I had been born, obviously, just hours, maybe a day before. When I was born, my biological mother named me David, full name David Lee. I wasn't going to be named John until I was adopted by my adopted parents 4 months and 17 days later. So it was as though heaven already knew that I was going to be adopted, already knew what my name was going to be, and they were already referring to me by that name. So that was one of the first little confirmations I had that this was something that was really good, really was going on strong. But that's pretty much it. Pretty much the story.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about how this all came together in terms of how did you remember it? What sort of age were you when you started to put the pieces together? And what was that experience like for you to suddenly realize what you were remembering?
The memories themselves, the little video clips and picture memories that I had, I remember those as far back as I can remember having any memories. I'm guessing probably 6, 7 years old. As far as the bringing of all of it together to the understanding and realization of what it actually was, that didn't happen, but maybe a little less than a year ago. And like I said, in between the two, we believed, and I believed, that it was all a part of some weird thing that I was able to remember when I was 2 days old. which even then I didn't really understand how that worked until I met my my biological mother, and she confirmed with me what some of those memories were and why I would remember them, such as the hospital room or being held on the left shoulder.
Yeah, wow.
So I've gone through my life thinking one thing, and then all of a sudden, the Lord just shows it to me in a totally different light and opens it up for me to fully understand.
Yeah, what was that like? I know you said that you didn't speak for about half an hour, but was your whole world shocked? Like, were you rocked? What was that like?
Yes, it was. It's like I described to my wife about this. I said, you grow up thinking one thing about yourself and understanding who you are and what all it encompasses your life. And then one day out of the blue, a part of it changes. And it changes in a way that it just kind of shakes your foundation a little bit. And not necessarily in a negative way. I think the biggest struggle I had at first, when I first realized what was going on, was understanding, okay, I now know what happened. I now know why it happened. How do I incorporate that into day-to-day life? Do I incorporate it in day-to-day life?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for it or a reason not? And obviously the Lord has shown me since then that yes, there is. And there's a reason why he's doing it, wanting me to, there was a reason why he was showing it to me in the first place. And
do you know that reason?
Yes, actually I do. During the near-death experience, I really didn't get any messages or I believe any special impartations or anything like that. But after I came to the understanding of what happened with the near-death experience, obviously my next question of the Lord was, okay, why did you send me back? Why did I come back to earth?
Yeah.
And this is kind of interesting to me because I asked him that question and he said, because you were set to be a blessing to so many people.
Oh, that's so good.
Now, my first thought about that was, I'm not so arrogant as to think I'm just going to walk around on earth thinking I'm a blessing to everybody. Look at me.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit humbled by that. And I thought, well, number one, have I been a blessing like the Lord wanted me to be to others? And second of all, if not, what do I need to change to do that? And I think the Lord kind of picked up on what I was thinking, and he began to show me things. And what he showed me were obviously, some big things that I've done for people along the way, but also little things like just waving or just smiling at somebody or taking a sticky note and drawing a smiley face on it and saying, have a nice day, and sitting on their computer at work. There's no limit to what you can do size wise, whether big, small, whatever, that can be a huge blessing to somebody. And you think it's nothing, but to them, it may hit them at just the right time to where it really, really, is inspiring to them or touching or healing or whatever the case may be. So that's part of the case. He is also helping us to develop our ministry, of which we're using, part of the near-death experience to talk to others about things such as, I don't know, anything that may apply on a daily basis or weekly basis or whatever. But bottom line is, we want to be inspiring. We want to be. It's definitely a positive story. And we want to share hope and love, and as we say, be a blessing to others, and just open that door to where we can do that on a regular basis.
Does
that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I've got a lot of questions because that's
okay,
just the way
sure.
that I'm wired. But that does.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm curious to know, you're talking about your ministry, you're talking about your strong beliefs and how you believe that God has shown you, why this happened and what you meant to do with it. Where do your beliefs come from? Were they something that you had? Is it the way that you were raised, or did you always kind of have them there? Yeah.
That's one of the interesting things about having a near-death experience when you're 2 days old. You don't really have a life beforehand. So You really don't know, okay, I didn't have, 25 years of learning about religion, Christianity, spiritualness, you name it. I just, drank out of a bottle for a day, and that's all I had done up to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
But my Christian upbringing began as early as probably when I was probably within first 6 months of life.
Yeah.
I do not believe I had any at the time of the near-death experience. And I don't really believe that any Christian upbringing started or began or whatever, probably any earlier than 6 months. My parents that adopted me, my father was a United Methodist minister. So obviously that probably played into it later. But do I believe that my views, my interpretations, you name it, of my near-death experience, do I believe that has been influenced in some way by whether I was brought up as a Christian or not? I really don't see how it could, because I really didn't have that experience and that training and that understanding and knowledge before the near-death experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of helped me to understand why certain things happened later, but at that moment, no.
I find it really interesting because the people that I've spoken to have had their experiences quite early on in their lifetime. Often there is just some natural feeling of connection to God or to a belief system or some kind of spiritual connection. So that's why, I wanted to know, were you raised in this particular faith, or how did that work? And I wonder whether there is actually some connection that's lingering on from that early experience that you had.
Yeah. I've had this conversation with other people in the past. They say, well, okay, Alan, your near-death experience obviously has a lot of the Christian belief system in it. And I said, yeah. And they said, how do you feel about people who don't see Jesus or don't see God or really don't feel a connection? They might just see a garden or a waterfall or something like that. And I say, everybody's near-death experience is what it's supposed to be for them.
Yes.
Period.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. I don't say, well, if yours isn't like mine, then you're wrong. No, that's not the way this works. We don't know why we had what we had when we have it. When it comes to near-death experiences, I think one of the things that I think I can draw the most when I hear other stories is about how the love and the acceptance that most people, talk about feeling. But I don't know. I just decided all along that it's not my place to say, okay, if you don't have one like this, you're wrong. That's not my place. It's not anybody's place to say. Whatever somebody has in their death experience, I support what they have, and I'm thrilled that they've had the opportunity to reflect on it and use it in their life to whatever degree they do.
Exactly. I love that as well, because I think they're all so similar, but they're also specifically unique, and what that individual, I wouldn't say needs to experience, but on some level it must be what would help them the most, or what would have the greatest impact. There's got to be some element of that in there, I think.
Right.
What about in terms of your family? The thing that's just really impressed on my mind as you're talking is, do you think that we choose our family before we come here, which is one belief that people have? Do you think that you were given a family with such strong beliefs because that was going to help you to get to the point where you are today, where you can actually understand that experience and what happened to you and how it aligns with what you believe? I
have never thought about that.
I know, like I say, I can ask some weird questions.
No, that's a great question, actually. I like that. I can't say no to that. I guess I come from the theory of I've got to leave all possibilities open. I do believe that I was the perfect fit for my adoptive parents. And I guess with the way we're talking here, it makes sense that they would be the perfect fit for me. Obviously, God has a destiny for all of us. I believe he has a calling on all of our lives. He has a purpose for all of our lives. And it makes sense that he would give us the family that we have whether we're talking parents, whether we're talking spouses or whatever, that would help us to achieve the most of what he wants us to achieve. I've always believed that, when he gives us a purpose, he gives us the resources we need to fulfill that purpose. So, yeah, I can see that would definitely be a possibility.
I love what you say there, that we get all the resources and the things that we need for that purpose.
Right.
Have you felt in your lifetime that you have had one burning purpose or reason to be here? One thing specific?
I think one of the things that has always been on my heart is to give and to share. For years, I've been the kind of person that would sit back and say, I wish I could walk into a hospital somewhere and say, okay, what family needs help the most? I want to pay off their hospital bill. Or you're driving down the road and you see a poor family with their car broke down, and you think, I want to just put them in the car and say, let's go get you a car. That's always been me. And I enjoy that. And obviously it's not, not something I've been able to to do much as far as that goes. But helping others, I think, is the biggest, which, kind of opens up another theory that came from this near-death experience. Was, I believe one of the things the Lord shared with me was, most people, I can't speak for everybody, but most people wonder what's their purpose in life. They wonder what their calling in life is. And what was told to me, and I'm going to say I believe this applies to me. I think it might apply to others, but I'll leave that up to each individual interpretation. Your purpose in life is to be a blessing, to share love, to share appreciation to others, to help build other people up. Your calling in life is the tools that you're gifted with to help you do that. That can be something, whether it's the gift of music, whether it's something associated with a vocation, whether it's something associated with just your personality or spiritual skills or whatever the case may be. That I think that's where those fall into place. And I think that's why some people have that burning urge to help others or to have a certain spiritual journey or duty or whatever. It's because that purpose has been instilled in their heart and their spirit. And somewhere along the line, there's a calling associated with it, and it gives them the opportunity to do that.
Which links back into what you were saying, that we have the resources, we have the gifts that we need for our purpose, for our calling.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. Good, Alan, good. I want to tap in a little bit more to your experience, what you've learned since putting all the pieces together. How has your life changed since then? Like, I can imagine how foundational that was to have that realization, put the pieces together, but on a day-to-day basis, your thoughts, your beliefs, and I'm not talking spiritual beliefs, just the way that the world works. How has your life been since then?
I think the one thing, and I'm going to speak in terms of spiritual beliefs first. The one thing that has meant the most to me is this. In the Christian faith, in the Christian belief system, so much of what we believe and so much of what we act on and whatnot is based on faith. And obviously, when you're brought up in the church and you're brought up in Christianity and you study and you get degrees and whatnot, there's still a huge amount of your knowledge that has to go according to faith and your actions according to faith. Having had this experience, there are now some things that I have experienced that I used to have to only rely on faith for, that I have seen firsthand now. Seeing Jesus Christ, being held like I was, the angels, seeing a heavenly realm. Those things, we read about in the Bible and we understand and we know they're there, but it's a large part of it's faith. Now, I obviously still have the faith, but it's that much stronger because I've actually seen these things now. So that's huge. I'm also not so much in the faith or in the spiritual side, but also I'm more patient. I guess you could say I'm more appreciative. I think my wife, she's sitting to my left over here. I think she just shook her head at me like, Okay.
Oh,
Um, I'm more appreciative of day-to-day life.
yeah.
I'm more thankful for the little things that I see. I go walking out the back door in the morning. I'm ready to go face the day, and I look up and I see a deer running across the backyard. I'm going to stop and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, that's so good.
I know, and I see a little child in the back seat of a car going down the road. I'm going to wave. Where in the past I'd be so caught up with my own job and my own stresses and things like that I would just, hey, okay, there's a kid, nice to go, get out of my way. So,
Yeah.
being able to appreciate the little things, living day to day, rather than trying to live for 6 months down the road. Those are huge. But yes, I was, when all of this finally came together, and I first understood exactly what was going on with the near-death experience and the revelations that the Lord was sharing with me because of it. Yeah, it shook me up a pretty good bit. Because, like I said earlier, you don't really know, how am I going to incorporate this in life? What does it mean? Am I supposed to do something with this? If not, why am I being shown this?
Yeah.
But I think I'm a much happier person, more peaceful about life, more at peace with the afterlife, and that's probably the best way I know to answer that one.
Yeah, I love that. It's really great. I was also going to ask, what have you learned about yourself? But I think you've actually probably covered that in that question. Talking about the way that you see the world. And I love the little things that you've talked about. The little things make the big things, in my opinion. So if we can just have the gratitude for what's going on around us, if we can notice all of these little things, like you say, we're going to be much happier on the inside. We're going to have more patience. We're going to have more gratitude. And I feel like that's the stuff which just sets the foundation for all of the other good things to come in, the love to come in, and for us to live our most loving, purpose-filled lives, I suppose. So, yeah, it definitely resonates with me. How has it been, and you need to tell me if this gets a bit too personal, how has it been sharing this with your wife? Was there any stage, and I know she's sitting next to you, I can't actually see you, but I know you're there. Was there a stage of, I think he's lost the plot, or how was that for you? Was that quite hard to overcome or to address?
No, actually, my wife is amazing. Give you a little bit of background on she and I in this area. We were both married previously, and both of our spouses passed away for the same reason within a couple of months of each other.
Wow.
And we knew each other, actually, 3 months? Yeah, okay. So we knew each other in passing in high school. We went to high school together, but we never dated. We weren't really friends. We really didn't, we had some same teachers and things like that, but that was it. So when we just happened to become Facebook friends, and I was living like 700 miles away from here. And to make a long story short, we're talking and getting to know each other, and we find out we went to high school together, and we know the same people, and lo and behold, 32 years later, we get married. So we've been married 6 going on 7 years. And because I think of our experience with being a widow and widower, we understand life a little differently than some. And how was it explaining to her? Truthfully, if I tell you the process, the first memory that came to me was the night that I was in prayer and meditation, and the Lord was showing me that picture of the hospital room. And that happened on one night. And I came home later that night, and I was telling Penny about it. And I said, the Lord was showing me this, and I'm looking at this view, this memory, although I'm looking down on the room, like I'm hovering over the room. And she was the one who said, that sounds like a near-death experience. And I said, I need to check into this. So she was open to it. She's amazing. She's very supportive. We talk about the fact that there's a lot of things that she really can't relate to because she hasn't been in this. And so it's helping me to talk to her about it. I can talk my way through feelings and emotions and whatnot of having a near-death experience. and she's great at listening and offering opinions and telling me where I'm nuts and you name it. But
I love it.
It's been very, very positive, very, very positive.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did you know what a near-death experience was? Had you heard of one before she said that?
Yes, actually, if I go back to around, and you might be able to correct me on the year here. I want to say it was around 1979. We had a pastor friend who he kind of picked up on the fact that I was very spiritually sensitive in a lot of ways, even back then. Yeah. And he brought over a couple of books for me one day. And one of the books was the book Life After Life.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And that was the first time I had ever heard of anything like that. And I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was amazing. But I had never really, spent any time researching or anything involving near-death experiences. I was curious about it, but I never really had looked into it a whole lot.
So you said just then that you were always slightly sensitive. I think that's the word that you used, even when you were a child or a bit younger.
Right.
Do you think, so quite often experiencers who have had something similar, they find that they have either spiritual gifts or they have some abilities to do things which maybe are a little bit outside the box. They do tend to be a little bit more sensitive to things. Mm-hmm. Is that you? Do you think that you brought back anything from your experience or you connected to anything through your experience?
There are experiences that I've had that I think that's the only way I could have obtained them. Being very empathic, even to a sometimes troublesome level is one. But I think that ties into if I attach it to my spiritual beliefs, that means the more sensitive I am for something that somebody's going through, the more I'm supposed to pray for them and offer some form of assistance, either spiritually or whatever.
Yeah.
There are, I think that's the only way I can explain it, because I don't know of any other time or place or event in life where I would have had the reason to gain a spiritual sensitivity. I think one of the things that I am very in tune to is more so nature than what maybe a lot of people in the Christian belief system adhere to. I believe, to the degree of animism, that all living things have spirit. And I believe that we can all communicate together in the worship of the Lord. And, those are some of the things that I feel very, very strong about. But that's really the only way I would be able to know that I've had a growing of spiritual sensitivity in me was from that experience that I had in the near-death experience.
There's pretty much always been there, except for that first day. So, yeah, interesting. Have you had any other type of experiences, maybe any connection or visitations or out of body or anything along those lines?
No, actually, I don't remember that I have.
Yeah.
I have had moments where, I don't know how much detail we want to go into this, but there have been times where I've been in specific locations to where I would get a tremendous sense of fear or panic, and would leave a particular area, and then later find out that was an area that was highly charged, either in the paranormal or in historical events that involved everything from Civil War battles to people being taken to that area for as leper colonies or whatever, which I can go into specific stories on that. But that's really about it. Now, I really haven't had any additional experiences that I can think of.
Yeah. Did that pay a toll on you, having those experiences? Because you said that you're quite empathic. I can't get my words out today. Quite empathic. Is that even the right word? Help me out here.
Empathic. Yeah, I think that's got to be it.
That's got to be it, isn't it? You said that you're quite empathic. So
yes, a great degree of empathy. Yeah, it is very stressful at times. There are times where I can be in a department store and walk through a crowd of people and feel the energy coming out of me.
Yeah.
Like we sometimes throw around the phrase vampire, energy vampires.
Yeah.
But that there are times where you can do that, and I don't always understand why. I don't understand what's going on in their life where that's needed, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
The particular time I'm talking about, where I ran into the panic, was I was in Savannah, Georgia, and was driving around and kind of exploring some of the coastal areas. And I drove out to an end of a little peninsula that was about 100 yards from the island of Tybee Island. And while I was there, I had a tremendous sense of panic come over me that all I wanted to do was just run. And, I don't get scared of much. Okay. That scared me. And later on that evening, I found out that point on that little peninsula where I was where a lot of the people who had various diseases and illnesses back in around the turn of the century were taken and put in boats and sent across the waterway to the island, basically to live in colonies and die.
Oh,
So you can
wow.
imagine the pain and the suffering and and everything that was going on at that time. And I think some of that energy field was still there, and obviously I was picking up on some of that. So that's just an example of that. But yeah, it can be very very exhausting.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? What can you do to relieve that or prevent that?
Keep myself as balanced as well as possible.
Yeah.
Don't let myself get too high. Don't let myself get too low, emotionally, energy-wise, whatever.
Yeah.
That works in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I'll tell my wife, hey, we got to go off to the woods for a day. We're going to go for a walk in the woods, and we got to go hang around a lake somewhere, because that's where I can recharge the most. That and in prayer and meditation, these are all things that just keep my batteries charged.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, and I hear time and time again about that connection with nature, just how it helps us to recharge. It grounds us. It releases negativity. It's like plugging into nature is just our ultimate refueling system, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. There's been some really lovely little themes which have come through our conversation today, Alan. And
Good.
I just want to ask you, what is your big message? If there was one thing that you wanted listeners to know, or one big question that you wanted to answer, what would it be?
I think that we cannot put enough emphasis on loving, being peaceful with, being sympathetic to, and be blessings to others around us. We are in this big ship in the middle of space, moving at millions of miles an hour, and this is all we've got. And we all have the ability to love others, to care for others, to share with others. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to have a schedule where we can do what we should. Sometimes we allow ourselves to get sidetracked, but we've got to make a portion of our life there for others, because as we help and strengthen others, it's also helping and strengthen ourselves. And that, combined with understanding that, there is, if you want to call him God, which I do, if you want to call him, the energy source, or whatever you want to call him, he's there. And you can listen to me, you can listen to, goodness, probably thousands of others NDE stories who all say they have never experienced love and acceptance like they have, and comfort like they have, in the presence of what I call God. And if we get that with the very source that created this universe, then why can't we do that for each other as well? And I think that's the most important thing that comes from what I'd like to share and put off to others.
Thank you. It's
Sure.
it's wonderful because it is that same theme that always comes up of it's about love and it's about
Mhm.
connection, and we are one, and we've got to treat each other well, and we've got to treat ourselves well. And love is all we've got. The present moment's all we've got, and we've got to fill it with love and live our best life, putting our best foot forward in love.
Right. That's it.
Thank you. I love it. I can say
Me
that word a
too.
lot of times. I do, yeah.
Good.
Alan,
Good.
thank you so much for sharing. I know
Well,
that a
thank you.
lot has happened over your life with that happening at such a young, early age, and then
Mhm.
going through your life and then working it out quite a lot later in life.
Right.
I really appreciate that you've shared that with us, and I know that there will be questions out of this episode, which I love, and I
Mhm.
just encourage people to come back to me so that we can ask those questions to you at a later
Sure.
time. But I really want to acknowledge your story, acknowledge your experience, say a huge thank you, and Alan Cofield, we wish you the best.
Thank you so much. This has been an honor, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Don't forget you can join the free online community over at www.letstalkneardeath.com, and I look forward to sharing another episode with you soon.